South African Revenue Services, SARS, has released the VAT Modernization Consultation Paper for public consultation and comment. The consultation paper outlines a proposed digital VAT model that brings together e-Invoicing, an interoperability framework, and e-reporting to reposition VAT administration for the economy, ease of compliance, obligations, and strengthen oversight. Well, for more on this, we're joined by the SARS Commissioner, Dr. Johnstone Makhubu. Dr. Makhubu, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. In as lay terms as possible, can you describe to us what a digital VAT model is, or at least the proposed one?
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you having us. In simple terms, a VAT model is a model that brings together parties that transact in the system. The VAT system would include suppliers and buyers, and the digital model is a model that ensures that there's visibility of transactions between those that invoice and those that are invoiced, i.e. suppliers and buyers. And this model then ensures that those transactions that are entered into between the parties are visible to the tax administration so that the tax administration can do its job in terms of making compliance to just happen. And this is pretty much similar to what we have done with the personal income tax, where we have reported in the past that some 6.8 million taxpayers didn't have to do anything because there was a digital model that was sitting behind collecting data, linking employers, insurances, retirement annuities, etc., into an individual. So a VAT model is the model that links in an ecosystem those that buy and those that sell to the tax administration with an ultimate goal of ensuring that filing is made very easy to an extent where it just happens, much like we've demonstrated with personal income tax in the last while.
Okay, I have to ask, what does this look like in practice for, assume I am just a VAT vendor, assume I am a local grocer, and all I do is I transact and people buy groceries from me. How does that affect my point of sale and or invoicing systems, and how does that affect my financial operations?
So what would happen is, maybe let's start with what happens currently. What happens currently is that you would keep a manual record of all your transactions, both on the input side, i.e. your expense side, and your output side, which is your sales side. You would keep these invoices, and at a periodic end of a period, whether it's monthly or 2 monthly or 6 monthly, you would come back to the tax administration retrospectively, and you would say, these are the transactions that I have been able to effect in my business. And whether you are on a debit, meaning you owe SARS, you then pay SARS, or you've been a refund and SARS would pay you. SARS would, from time to time, expose you to an audit or a verification where they would ask for supporting documents. That is currently what is happening in the environment. What will be happening in future is that the moment you do a transaction, SARS will be embedded in your ERP or in your accounting system, and the transaction in what we call the e-invoice will be transmitted into a central database, and that database will then hold that transaction or that e-invoice information, and that will be transmitted to whoever has been invoiced. And it creates then an ecosystem of invoices that have flown from yourself to your clients, so that the tax administration is able to take that information and pre-populate your monthly return and ultimately auto-assess that return. So what would happen, as per your question, is that you would have to do nothing if you are already having an ERP system or an accounting system. What would need to happen is that the rules would have to be written and the laws would have to be written to make sure that that ecosystem or that system that you are running is able to transmit information into a central hub, and that central hub can be read into by the tax administration, so that ultimately that information goes into the VAT return, lessening the need for you as a VAT vendor to have to populate that information going into the future.
Does that mean that it will be a statutory requirement for VAT vendors to integrate the SARS digital VAT system into their financial systems?
Increasingly, we are seeing globally that it becomes a statutory requirement. You would have seen that in the second phase, we will be working towards defining what those legislative requirements are. As we have said in the paper that we have released, the consultation paper, we are asking vendors, businesses, software providers to read our paper. It's a 10-chapter paper. Come back to us with clarifications, questions. We'll set up forums where these conversations will take place after the closing of the comments process, which closes on the 16th of October. So indeed, there will be some legislative changes. You would see that we speak about regulations that we'll have to promulgate. And these regulations will be aimed at making sure that legally there's a legal framework within which this can be done. But of course, the reason why SARS is not going very fast on this is because we need to make sure that we move with all our stakeholders in the system. We do know that there was anxiety in the system in terms of SARS would expect this to be done very quickly, but we have taken a very cautious approach to say, let's allow ourselves 3 to 5 years over 5 phases so that we can move with the taxpayers, both the large businesses through to the small businesses, so that we don't leave anybody behind in this reform that we are undertaking through this paper that we issued out yesterday.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. That is the SARS Commissioner, Dr. Johnstone Makhubu.